right, so I am here with Carolina, and we are going to discuss human design. She is a human design expert. So, Carolina, thank you for coming on and sharing
Thank you
with
for
us.
having me. I'm
You're
so
so
excited.
you're so welcome. Human design has changed my life. I discovered it during the pandemic, like other people. So,
Everyone else.
right. So, tell me a bit about human design and how you got into it.
So, human design is essentially the way our energy moves within us and how we're supposed to use it when we're interacting with the universe. Um, the way it works, it's essentially chart, a blueprint of what that looks like on your body. Um, and then to answer part B of your question, I came across it maybe 5 years ago, and at first it was very overwhelming, and I got intimidated, and so I kind of like let it let it slide. And then after becoming a mom and moving to a new country, I came across it again, and then I was just fascinated by the level of depth and how accurate, how specific it was to how I felt about myself. I felt like it totally related to what this new quote unquote language was telling me about me. And then I went ahead and did the same exercise with my husband and my son. And once again, it was extremely accurate. Everything was on point. And I decided that I felt a very strong pull. I couldn't learn enough about it. I was reading podcasts, like everything, googling everything. Um, I just couldn't get enough. So I very quickly signed up for a reader program, and I've been studying and practicing for close to 3 years now.
That is awesome. So,
Yeah,
what do you feel like has been like the biggest benefit for you so far?
it's been like the key to open the portal to my inner journey as I grow and evolve into the highest version of myself. Um, that's really what it's been. It's kind of like it was the key to start unlocking all of those I don't know levels of understanding and loving and accepting who I am and growing from that as well.
Right. Yeah, it is very it goes very deep from my understanding of it, and to I know for my experience, human design was like looking in a mirror. Like you said, it helped me to really look at, and it reflected to me what I thought about myself. Maybe the things that we don't say to other people, but there were like things that you're like, that's me. Like that is totally who I am. So it's been amazing for me. So as far as human design, if someone's looking to like get started or get their chart, like how do you recommend, because it is intimidating, it does go deep, it is a lot of information on a lot of different levels. Where do you recommend your clients start?
Really recommend everyone to follow what they're being called to. So if you feel like you wanna like dig on your own, Google a little bit, see if you can make sense of it, go for it. But I will warn you, it can be a lot, and and it can be confusing because the language sometimes can be a little bit, I don't know, scary, like hard to digest.
Hmm.
Um, so I would say for most people, just get a reading, um, because with practice is when you really start to understand all the nuance of how the energies from like the different energy centers work together, what the actual meaning of all those very quote unquote scary terms um, is, like what it actually means, as opposed to just having like a very just bold statement that can be very disempowering, for example, for some people. Because that's what happened to me when I first came across it. Um, so that's where you need someone that like knows what they're talking about, what it all means, and can put all the pieces together. Because you can do it online and try to like make sense of it, but you, you're gonna struggle. It's gonna be hard to like actually understand what's going on if you're not familiar with it.
So let's get into like some of the technical aspects of human design. Like what are
Hmm.
the different types? Like can you like briefly explain those?
Of course. So the energy type is the most like essential way in which everyone's supposed to interact with the universe. So we have five different energy types. The first one is manifesting generators, which you are. And the manifesting generators are people who are very talented at different things. So they have different passions, different hobbies, different interests. Um, and they're here to go for all of those things at the same time, and really follow their passions and all their callings, um, without second guessing themselves too much. They're extremely efficient. They have more like an ability to get things going very quickly because they have the energy to initiate things and then they have the energy to complete it. So it's this combination of those two types of energies that make them like powerhouses at everything they do. Um, they because they have so much energy and they're very efficient, they can take on more work than most people, but that doesn't mean that they should. So oftentimes I see manifesting generators feeling burnt out because they have all this workload. Um, um, because say their boss realized they were very efficient, so they're like, "Oh, you can do the work too. Why don't you?" And the manifesting generator didn't feel like they could say no, but I always encourage my clients to tune in, and if it's not something that is resonating, um, just find a way to like delegate or pass those tasks to someone else, um, because the magic really happens when we are all here doing the things that we love, the things that we feel called to. When we're all doing the things that we love and we're all putting like our gifts and talents, we're bringing the best of us to the table, the collective benefits. And that's kind of like the idea behind human design. Everyone's unique and everyone has a unique talent. Um, and so if we all focus on that, um, we're all benefiting from that.
Yes.
Good.
Awesome. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm an MG, a manifesting generator, like you said. And when I discovered my profile, it was amazing because it explained why I move so fast and why I change my mind so quickly without any guilt, without any shame. So, and then I have the ability to keep going and going and going,
Mm-hmm.
even though I shouldn't all the time. But okay, so what's the next one?
Oh, before we move on, I
Okay.
do wanted to, I just a kind reminder for manifesting generators because they're so fast, they can get frustrated when they feel people aren't keeping up with them. Um, and so this is just a reminder that not everyone has the same ability to be as effective and as efficient as you guys. So just to give others some grace and understand that it's not them that are slow, it's you that you are twice as fast as everyone else. Um, So hopefully, keeping that in mind will ease some of that frustration I see some MGs deal with. Okay, and so moving on to generators. I am a generator. So generators are here to, as the name implies, generate energy. How do they do that? By focusing on the things they love, by putting their intention and their energy into the things that light them up. Um, and in that way, they become very magnetic. People are drawn to them. The opportunities come their way, and they're here really to have like a life full of joy. It feels like it's like very idealistic, but that's really what it is. Like for a generator, the key in their life, like their mantra, is to follow their joy, um, and to allow themselves to have fun and like enjoy life, have pleasurable experiences, things that will make them happy and feel wonderful about life and about themselves. Because that's really what they're here to do. The more you do that, the more energy generators create for those around them. You can see a generator who's very in alignment. You can sense them because they are kind of like very attractive, sparkly, kind of magnetic. Like people just want to be around them all the time because they have this very yummy, juicy energy. Um, that is just so attractive to everyone. Um, so that's a bit about generators. Both manifesting generators and generators, by definition, have what we call a spine sacral, which is the center of our life force energy. That means that they have access to this energy that allows them to create and to focus on like consistently working on something that, and as long as this something is um, a thing that lights them up, they will have consistent energy to complete that thing that they're working on. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
It also works as a built-in compass. It has it answers yes or no questions. So whenever you hear people using the expression "listen to your gut," this is very important for generators because that's what the sacral response is the gut. So it will say, yes, I like this. No, I don't like this. Yes, I want that. No, I don't want that. Um, and I always advise all of my generator and manifesting generator clients to practice and to quote unquote train the sacral like a muscle because the more you work with it, one, the stronger it is, and two, the more you learn how to trust it. So I always encourage everyone to start with small things. What's for breakfast? What's for dinner? Do I want to go on a walk? And listen to the response in your body and see if you feel like expanded, excited about the idea, or if you feel like a constriction, kind of like a rejection energy. Um, and that should give you a really good idea of whether that's a good decision for you or not. And as you practice and navigate this, um, you can start crossing and you can start identifying what a yes feels like, what a no feels like, and you can start crossing it with the bigger decisions. And as you do this, you will really quickly find yourself in alignment with the rest of your design. In human design, we say that strategy and authority is 80% of the work. So as long as you're following your strategy and authority, and that this is different for everyone, and you do need to see your own chart to find out what those are. But as long as you're doing that, you're 80% of the way there. It kind of like everything else just kind of like falls into place. So that's it for generators. Now projectors. Before we move forward, generators and manifesting generators are about 35% of the population each. So So overall, 70% of the population is what we call sacral beings because they have their sacral defined. Now, non-sacral beings are the manifestors, projectors, and reflectors. These energy types are a little bit more rare, and each energy type has its own gift. So not because they don't have a defined sacral, that means it means they're not valuable because they're actually special in their own way. So let's start with projectors, for example. Projectors are about, I believe it's 20% of the population. And they're here to be guides. They're here to give us insights and advice because they are very good at zooming out and see all the moving pieces and how everything fits together. They're also very good at um, see people for who they are. So they're great people when it comes to giving advice or turning to someone for advice. So they will naturally be very good coaches, very good counsel, very good. I don't know, anyone you can think of that is more like just someone who provides guidance and and insights. Um, because they're non-sacral beings, they don't have access to that consistent life force energy. So they are here to guide and not so much to do. So projectors are always, or not always, often burned out because they are not aware of what their limit is when it comes to work. We live in a society where everything is work, 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 work. Turns out that for non-sacral beings, that's not correct. It's actually very harmful. So for projectors, I always advise my clients to really take a step back, like from away from all the people, um, and check with themselves and see if they're tired. If they're tired, then it's very important that they take a bit of a break to recharge and recover. Because what we need from there are those insights and that very valuable advice that they have to share, as opposed to just being just working for the sake of working. Um, that's not where their gift is actually. Not that they can't, but it's it's more important for them, or it's more important for us, the collective, to get their insights than for them to just work like any other person. Like a 9 to 5 for a projector might be a little hard. Um, and there are different types of projectors, so there's some nuance here. Um, but if a projector is feeling burned out, then it's burnt out. It's very important for them to check in and really take a step back and consider what they're pouring their energy and see if there's a way for them to like let go of some things so they can create space and to rest so that those insights that we need can come through. Um, so that's it for projectors. Now the next energy type is manifestor, which is about 9% of the population. And manifestors are, and this, just to be clear, when we talk about manifesting generators and manifestors, it doesn't have anything to do with manifestation as a topic in like manifesting a job, a career. That's nothing to do. We're talking more about um, expression than than the what we know now as manifestation concept. So manifestor is someone that is here to they get like this really crazy idea downloads, and then they share those with the collective, and they're here to like get the ball rolling. So they're the ones that come up with the crazy project, the idea. Let's go to space. I came up with this um, spaceship idea. Um, let's I don't know, anything that's like a little bit out of the box, a little bit unconventional. They're very innovative. They're here to really create new things for the collective, to come up with those new concepts. And then as they get the download, they will like work really hard to get it going. And then it will get to a point where they're like, okay, I'm ready to pass this on to someone else. And then they take a step back. And then they need to like, take it easy. Um, so it's not like this is like during the day, but they will get like these cycles where like they work really, really hard. And then they need to take a step back so that they can rest and recharge and be ready for the next download. Um, because that's really what they're here to do. That's a gift. Um, so manifestors are very bold. They have very strong voices, um, and they're here to share that. The thing is, a lot of manifestors shrink because growing up, they were told, "Oh no, 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 you can't be that loud. No, 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 you're taking up too much space. No, 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 no. Who do you think you are? You can't be this bold." So they learned to like they were told they needed to be smaller and shrink down. Um, and so they really struggled to step into their own power. Um, because society, like the family and like at school, everyone was like, "No, you're too much. You need to tone it down." Um, so the invitation for manifestors really is to like step into their own power, be bold, be vibrant, be polarizing. Um, a lot of people may not get it. That's fine, but the people who get it will support you and be there for you no matter what, and that's what's important. People who share your vision and will help you make it happen. And so that's it for manifestos. A very brief overview. And then last but not least, reflectors. This is a very special, very rare type. They're only about 1% of the population. They are very sensitive beings because they have their entire chart, all of their energy centers are open. That means that they are sensitive. Whenever we have, whatever we have openness in our chart, we're receiving energy from others. So when you have all of your centers open, you're constantly receiving everything everyone else is um, generating, is projecting, is broadcasting. um, so one, it can be a little bit overwhelming. Two, they struggle a lot with figuring out who they are because they are everyone. So how it works is a reflector, as the name implies, reflects back um, the energy of the person they're with. So it's essentially a mirror. So if they're with one person, they may feel a certain way, and if they're with a different person, then they will feel something different. And so they struggle to figure out like who am I really? But the reality is they're here to be everyone. They are here to experience what it feels to be every single person. And because they go through all those experiences, they have this deep, deep wisdom when they integrate all of that and when they put it together, and then they are able to share with us their objective assessments of how we're doing. So they are essentially like the elder in the center of the tribe, like giving advice to everyone because they have the experience. So that's what reflectors are. They're here to live in the life. Like we call it signature. They know they're in alignment when they are constantly surprised because they are here to experience everything. So every new experience is a new surprise. Um, so for them, that's the key to realize that they don't need to be one person. They're here to be everyone, and to really honor the energy, like however they're feeling in the day, because it really ebbs and flows. So sometimes it may feel like really powerful and full of energy, kind of like manifesting generator, kind of like quick, let's go. And then sometimes they may need to take a little step back and just take it easier. So really just honor the energy of the day for them because they don't have any definition in their chart. We call them lunar beings. Means they are um the moon is the foreign planet, the luminary that that rules them. So for them, it's very important to take a full lunar cycle, 28 days, to when it comes to making big decisions. It's during this period that they will see like what like all the different angles of the situation, and then they will get to a point of clarity where like, okay, this is what I need to do. And it kind of like happens like it seems like overnight, but in reality is it takes this long for them to digest and process the information to come to that point of clarity. So yeah, that's a brief overview of all five energy types.
Wow. I actually have a friend that's a reflector, and I was very surprised because pulling her chart was
There you
like,
go,
what?
surprise.
Yeah, so it was very interesting to see her chart. Um,
And did she relate to it?
I think so. Even in her language, the way she speaks, sometimes she's like, "Yeah, you're always so and so," and I'm like, "Okay, I'm not gonna take that personal, but I guess you're reflecting right
Yes.
now." So, but I do feel fully seen by her, so I think that's an aspect of
Mhm.
like what I look for when I make connections. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So, so thank you for going through all of those. So you went through
Yes, of
manifesting
course.
generator,
Projector,
projector, and then manifestor,
manifestor, and then reflector.
reflector. Yeah.
Yes.
So, do you feel that there are some slight similarities? Because I know that our strategy and authority are all different. Generators,
Mhm.
manifesting generators have the same strategy and authority. But with manifesting generators, do you feel like we're completely separate from manifestors in every way? Or do we take a little bit of that because we are initiating as well?
So I say manifesting generators are kind of like a bit of a hybrid, in the sense that they do have some of that manifesting energy because their throats are defined. So they do have the ability to initiate, um, and then not only initiate, but then actually do all the doing. So like manifestors are here to initiate, and then generators do all the doing, and then manifesting generators kind of have the ability of doing both. Um, so that's why you call they're kind of like a hybrid. Um, and with that said, um, they still need to wait for something to respond, whereas a manifestor just needs to wait for the urge. And so something to respond is something from the outside world that will spark, that will, yeah, spark a response in you. So that's uh, what waiting to respond means. Whereas a manifester, they just get like this download crazy. It's like an urge. It's like, okay, I just got this download. I got this idea. Let's get going. So those are two different strategies. So that's kind of like where the difference is really.
For sure, for sure. I know that I did receive one reading, but I didn't feel like it went very well. I feel like I understand myself more than other people could understand me. But I was led one day to. Oh, also, I think I would like for you to mention that the, how do we say, the founder, the creator of human design was a manifester.
Yes.
Yes, Ra
So
Urahu.
that's Ra. Yes. So that's Ra was a manifestor. So that's something to keep in mind when you're going through some of this material. You need to realize that manifestors have this very bold way of expressing themselves. So it can be a little shocking when you see some of the language. Um, around human design because it was channeled by a manifestor. I mean, obviously, it makes sense that a manifestor will get the crazy download and put it out there. Um, but at the same time, he's a manifestor, so he's going to use his very bold, polarizing voice to do this. So it that's kind of how it went down, and why some of the language out there can be a little intimidating.
Right. I think yeah, I think he definitely has a level of intensity, but
Mm-hmm.
I do too. So I was very drawn to that aspect and the ability to really think through like, okay, this is what he's saying, but what am I hearing? Like what about this can I just like take the meat and leave the bones, you know? Cuz
Yeah.
sometimes you got to take him in small spurts.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
remember being led to one of his manifestor videos, and I'm not a manifestor, I'm a manifesting generator, but something
Mm-hmm.
was like, okay, watch this one only because that manifestor aspect was there. So in
Yeah.
the very beginning for me, I had someone that do it to that perform my reading, but she was just very hard nosed on the fact that I'm not a manifester. But I'm like, I'm a manifesting generator. Like there's gotta like the verbiage alone, there's gotta be some connection because I can initiate as well and then wait for something else to respond to. So I kind of had a really like shrinking moment experience with her, but then I still realized like when I watched that video, in that video he said, and this may not this applies to me because this was probably one of the traumas that I faced as being very intense, having a big personality, people wanting to shrink me the way that sometimes you say manifestors have been shrunk by society, like no, you're too bold, you're too intense. Those are
Mm-hmm.
all things that I heard, and so I needed that kind of validation from that particular video. It really assisted me on my path to know like there's nothing wrong with you, you just, you know, this is the fire that you bring to this world.
Yeah.
And that reading wasn't that helpful for me, but me talking about that in that moment, like I, for the sacral, I got the hell no in that moment. I was like, hell no, I can't talk to her again.
This
But
is a no.
right, this is a complete no right now. But it wasn't that I was trying to be something that I wasn't. I was seeking more clarity and
But good for you for
understanding.
following your sacral there.
Right, for
Like
sure.
you knew to listen to your sacral and your gut, and where you're like, no, this is wrong.
Yeah, for sure. That sacral for me is I always say I live by the hell yes or hell no. If it's not a hell yes, then it's a no. If I'm like, oh maybe, then it's not a no. It's not a
A
yes.
hell no is never going to turn into a hell yes.
Right, for sure.
And when you get a hell yes, you can really try to talk yourself out of it, but you know better, and you're always going to be wondering what if.
Yeah. I actually had an experience where I was sitting here and the TV was off. I was about to go to bed and I got this idea for this podcast. And I felt it, literally felt it in my body,
Mm-hmm.
down in my like lower stomach area. And I was like, that's what that feels like. Cause I always knew, like,
Mm-hmm.
I had that gut reaction, like they say,
Yeah.
but to actually get it, process it in my body and not my mind for once,
Mm-hmm.
after, you know, I've learned so much
Yeah.
about human design. And it was kind of like a sexy feeling. It was like, ooh, this feels good. So I know
Well,
that that's
the
real for me.
sacral is the center of, I mean,
Desire.
sexuality,
Yeah, for sure.
desire, pleasure. So it makes sense that it will feel like that.
Right. Yeah. And that was the first time I actually felt it that way. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
this is awesome. Like I gotta figure
Mm-hmm.
this out. So how can we use this methodology, this theory, this new, brand new, we're moving from a seven centered being to a nine centered being? Like, how do we use this in parenting and relationships?
Oh my God. If I could, please help me find the words because it's just like, like it's a game changer. When you can really understand who you are and you can see what your loved ones are and the way they act some ways, like it's just who they are and there's nothing to change, there's nothing to to do about it. That's just who they are. There's a new level of understanding, of respect, of acceptance that it really removes a lot of conflict and a lot of pressure to kind of like fix quote unquote the other person. Especially, I feel like women in relationship we take on that burden to like fix everything that's quote unquote wrong with ourselves and our partners. And the reality is there's nothing wrong. So that burden is gone, and then everyone's free to be who they truly are. And so you can imagine the level of harmony and deeper intimacy that can come from having this understanding.
For sure. And we want to make sure we clarify in the context of a healthy relationship, not a
Of
toxic
course.
situation. Yeah, we want to make sure we say that because
Mm-hmm.
I do kind of read family members' charts and try to figure out, like, where is this toxicity coming from?
Yeah.
But I have done that for family members, and I'm able, just the way I was able to, like, I call it radical acceptance. I was able to radically accept who I was and all the
Mm-hmm.
things that, make me on the
Mm-hmm.
surface appear good or bad or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
focused, unfocused, moving too fast, whatever. I was able to look at that more specifically, like my mom, and
Mm-hmm.
realize that there's an aspect of her that makes her the way she is, with without airing my
Yeah.
mom out completely. But there, I was able to really look at that and say, wow, it was more of like a validation instead of a problem at that point. It was
Yeah.
like, okay, you're living in your design in that way, but
Yes.
also I can see some ways she's not living in her design as
Mm-hmm.
well. But it's an acceptance, like you say.
And there's an understanding. Oh, this is what's going on. You know,
Right.
there's nothing for you to do about it because that's their own thing to process and to deal with.
For sure.
Um, yeah, in terms of like having toxic relationships or stuff like that, that often gets reflected in the spleen center. The spleen is the center of well-being, of knowing what's good for us and what isn't. And so people who have conditioning in the spleen will have a hard time letting go of the things that aren't good for them. So that may be a clue as to where to look for in those situations when it comes to
Very
human
interesting.
design.
That's interesting.
That and the ego, because the ego is the center of our self-worth. So so people with undefined ego or completely open ego, they don't have a consistent sense of their self-worth. So they often settle for less than they deserve because they don't know what they actually deserve.
Mm,
Um, so you can see how the combination of those two like can really like someone with an open ego and an open spleen. You don't know what's good for you, and you don't know what you deserve. Like the combination for those can really um, be represented by someone who's like, in a toxic relationship and just settling and just trying to like having a hard time letting go of that situation. So
wow.
doesn't mean that everyone who has an open ego and an open spleen is going to end up in a toxic relationship. But often what happens is people in toxic relationships have these aspects in their chart.
For sure. Wow, that's very enlightening. That's very interesting. I all of this time. So actually, I have a short story I want to share with you. I When I first discovered human design in the middle of the pandemic, um, I pulled the wrong chart for myself, and it wasn't completely different than what the right chart was, but it was an amazing like juxtaposition because my design was one number off. I thought I was a
Mm-hmm.
6-2 when I'm actually a 5-2. And so just changing my birth time by like 20 minutes, to the right birth time, of course,
Yeah,
it positioned me differently. But then at that point, I felt ready because I had done so much research as a 6-2.
yeah.
I'd even joined a 6-2 group and submitted my information, and they were like, "Yeah, you're a 5." And I was like, "Wait, really?"
What
And I was kind of relieved because my 5-2 profile,
resonates more?
it resonates more because I'm a teacher. I'd putting I had I had put out um a course
Mhm.
in a different niche at a different time, teaching people how to be successful in this. And
Mhm.
then I read, and so I think sixes are teachers as well. They're considered teachers as well,
They
right?
are role models.
Mm-hmm.
So they go through life, got a lot of experience, and take some time to kind of like process all that experience. And then later stages in life, they are just a role model, but they're not like, they're like, look at me. They're kind of like just doing their thing, and then just their energy attracts people to kind of like observe what they're doing and just kind of like lead by example rather
Mm.
than actually being out there quote unquote teaching. They can do that, but it's more like leading by example, role model type of energy.
For sure. Yeah, that's interesting. So yeah, getting my real profile as a five, because I couldn't wrap my head around just being. Like I'm like, I have to do something. Like I got things to say. I got, people need to know some of the things that I've learned.
Especially with the defined throat.
Right. So, I really did have like a whole day where I laughed at myself. I was like, that is so synchronistic for me, because I felt like I needed to get introduced that way to really appreciate my design, because I feel like sometimes when people figure out their design, they're always looking on somebody else's sheet like, what are you? Oh man, and it's just human nature, I think. But go ahead.
But I find this fascinating because you do have a defined G center. So you knew, like, you're like, this isn't me. Because the G center is our center of identity. It's
Yeah.
like, or like knowing ourselves and our sense of direction. So you knew instinctively, this isn't me. And
Right.
then when you actually found your correct time and your correct chart, you were like, yeah, that's more like it.
Yeah, it did.
So
It fit very
yeah.
well, for sure. That I look at how my defined G center has played a part in my life. Even when people were trying to shrink me, I was like, no, you're not shrinking me. Now, I didn't, I still shrunk, of course. And there's still, the growth aspect of being more out in front, because, you're a teacher and all that stuff. But it was such an eye-opening thing for me, because when I put the right time in, like that, I think it was like the only thing that changed was the 5 to the 6 to the 5. So, and then,
Probably a few of the arrows up
oh,
there,
maybe
like you know
so.
how yeah, the variables probably change too. But yeah, I mean it can be that sensitive to time, honestly. So that's why having the correct first time is important because if not, it's not really reliable information that you're getting.
Right, right.
Um, and I mean, a lot of people don't have the correct birth time, so I work with them. And like, if they tell me, oh, I think I was born around 10, so I do run different charts to see what's consistent and what's changed, and I just do the reading based on what's consistent. Um,
Oh, okay. I actually had to do that with a few family members, mainly my mom and my dad. And so I basically kind of went through the day,
mhm,
and I was like, okay, this resonates for what I know them as. Because, I mean, some of them aren't here anymore. So
mhm.
it was like, as I know them, and it
Yeah,
really helped me, like, even heal more. I lost my dad in 2019. And so pulling his chart
yeah,
after, he left, essentially, he transitioned, I understood him so much more, and I felt
mhm,
like I really worked to understand him here physically.
yeah.
So it is such an amazing tool. And we don't even have time to get into the Penta and how we
We can
can,
be here all day.
I know, and how we can build our business teams correctly and all that stuff. So I was informed, though, that as the position that I play in my own company as an MG and all that stuff, um, the first type of person that I should bring on to my team is a projector. Well, a consultant to help me kind of expand where I'm going. So how do you feel about that?
It's good advice. I mean, a projector is someone who will be able to oversee everything and give you good guidance. Um, Also, because you're a manifesting generator, you are probably going to be very efficient. But in that process of being very efficient, you can also rush through some steps and probably miss a few things. And a projector will be able to like, you need to pay attention to this. You're missing this little piece. Um, so yeah, it's a good combination.
Okay, that's awesome. So I think that first I want to thank you for coming on and sharing your knowledge and
Thank you for
understanding.
having me.
No problem.
This is like, to me, this is a joy to be able to chat about it, to talk about it, to share what I know with people, because I feel it is a very very empowering tool. Um, so yeah, I'm just happy to be able to share what I know.
Awesome. So do you have any offerings or how can people work with you if they want to learn more about this?
So yeah, you can find me on Instagram at I am Carolina Wikstrom, and you can I do readings. I do different types of readings, like the basic one, and like different types of readings that you want to know more about your business, relationships, whatever it is. Um, Manifestation is a big one too. Um, so yeah, just follow me, ask me questions. I'm always there to answer any and all of your questions. This stuff just fascinates me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for so much for stepping into this work because I feel with the transition and the energy changes that the planet is going through, we need more people getting this out so people can really deeply understand and accept themselves. And it has changed my life. Like, I thought there was nothing else for me to learn. I read books, I watch videos, and then this fell in my lap and I just went down a rabbit hole. And deep rabbit holes are not MG's type. So,
No,
but this one was definitely a deep rabbit hole for me that I really deeply enjoyed. So, I appreciate your time. I appreciate
I'm
your
still in the
expertise.
rabbit hole 3 years later.
Right. Still in the rabbit hole
Still
for
here.
sure. So, thank you so much, Carolina. I appreciate your
Thank you for
time.
having me.
I am honored that you would share with me.
Okay. Thank
So,
you.
thank you so much.